Well, a short while ago, I was making these hooks that hold the chain that go down to the driver's boot, or that board that holds the feet for the driver. And I got my 4 made out, and I used a pattern off of an old one that I also have in storage. Well, the nut on the inside of this original one that I used for a pattern is one of those places that did not use a square nut, but it has this hex nut. And these are all 7/16, so I need a 7/16 hex nut that kind of matches this, but the new ones don't match this style worth a hoot. Well, you can see on this old nut that was on my original brace that we have kind of a dome top to it. It's not flat like these new hex nuts are. And I have a couple of these old ones that have that same dome shape to them that would interchange and fit that. But I only have 2 more. But I have some more 7/16 that are closer to the new style being flat, but you can see how much bigger they are. So I'm going to put them in the lathe and just put that dome shape on them so that they'll match a little closer to these old styles. But yet they'll be larger than the new style. So from here it's pretty much just install what I have made. I'll use my original brace here to form my 3 new braces and get my hooks installed. Another piece of the puzzle off of this 11 passenger is this conglomeration of wood and iron here. And this actually is the ironwork that goes up to the surrey top, and a little bit of the framework that is left for the cross frame of this top. This is the front, and this section here is the rear. Well, these irons for the front of the top actually bolt to the driver's seat right in the corner of the seat arm and the seat back. And this one is actually still bolted by one bolt. This one has the part of the woodwork that was to the other side here. It was broken off, but it is still enough intact that I can tell what the width of this top used to be. So this is the front, and then I have the rear that actually is still intact and was still bolted to the ironwork. And the rear irons actually go down and bolt to the curved frame on that back frame. So we're going to get those installed as well, but I'm going to get this all torn apart and maybe run it through the sandblaster. I have a lot of these bolts that are still intact, though somewhere in the past these must have been dismantled from the seat frame because all the bolts are still there. The nuts are kind of seized up, but I might be able to reuse some of these old original bolts. These round rods that go to the top are pretty heavy duty. They're both 3/4 in the front and in the rear. So it's not that I'm ready to build the top yet, but I would like these irons in place because they get bolted to the seat frame. And these bolts need to be in place even though I'm going to remove these irons because I don't have the height in my paint room to paint all this with the top installed. So I want this top off so when it is actually all painted, I can just assemble it and everything is in place and I'm not drilling holes in my fresh new paint. And those rear irons get bolted to this whole framework assembly and bolts go clear through. Well, I want to be able to get my drill in and make these holes before this panel is in the way because it kind of interferes with my drill. And then once these bolts are installed, there's a piece of leather that is tacked over the heads of these to keep these bolts from coming loose. Because once this is upholstered, you can't get to these bolts anymore, so that keeps them in place. But yet the threaded end will be out here to where this top can be removed and put back after it is painted. Well, in the past, when I have restored some of the newer versions, probably in the teens, I have run across this stamp before, made in Sweden, but I hadn't noticed the 3 crowns before. And if I hadn't seen this in the past, I might not even be able to make out what it is. But here's an M, A, and then there's a D and the E. That's kind of vague, but it's there. Then the I, N, and then it's almost difficult to see the S, but the W is a little more distinct right here. And then the rest of Sweden seems to have disappeared. But this top crown is real noticeable. The 2 on the bottom are a little less distinct. But looking up the insignia of Sweden, it's typical that they had the signature of 3 crowns. And I think that's what this is here, made in Sweden. When I saw this insignia in the past, it has been on those clevises that are on the rockers that saddle those throw braces. That's where I've seen it. I haven't noticed it on the top upright irons before, but they put them wherever they put them. You know, that glass is getting to be so cloudy on that sandblaster, I think I'm going to change it out so I can see a little better and see if there's any more on the other irons. Well, I didn't find any more stampings on the other three. Seems to be just on this one. You know, and it does help putting a new piece of glass in my sandblaster. I have to do it every 2 or 3 years maybe. I keep some 1/4-inch plate glass around, just some salvage glass, so I just cut a new piece and put in there, and it really does help to be able to see what you're doing. Surprise, surprise. You know, in the world of blacksmithing, it's fairly common to leave your mark on your work, and it's often referred to as a touch mark. I personally had never made one, but it's real common in blacksmithing. We see today probably the most common made-in phrase, made in China. When I was growing up, my parents were always kind of frustrated with how much stuff came from made in Japan or made in Taiwan. But when we become more in the world economy like we are, it's a little more, kind of more common maybe. Made in Bangladesh, made in India, made in Mexico, made in Canada, made in USA. You know, stuff is just done all over the country, and it's mainly driven because of economics. So it would be kind of interesting to me if that was the motivating force behind Abbott and Downing when they were building these coaches. Obviously, they were made in Concord, New Hampshire, but why did they farm out ironwork made in Sweden? I don't know. It's kind of a puzzle. Maybe somebody out there has an answer to that, but I bet the root of it all was the economics of it. Anyway, I've got to see if these will fit on my seats. Hopefully they do. They better. And I've got to figure out the method of how they made these. As I sandblast these, some of those forge weld joints show up, and I'll share with you what I think they did. And then we have to see if we can do it again. Anyway, appreciate you coming along and putting together the puzzle. Thanks for watching.